Hey everyone, it's Sam Smith, Realtor with JP and Associates Realtors. I'm coming to you today on Tuesday, July 28th, with a new interview. This is actually, here, this direction. Tiffani Feathers is actually a friend of my kids, and but she's also a realtor, and she is also with JP and Associates, but she's in the Dallas-Fort Worth area right now. I didn't bring her on here to talk about real estate. I actually brought her on here to talk about a health condition that I think is pretty common, on differing scales. It could be very mild, it could be severe, but this is something that she's dealt with in different ways. We always hear about medications, and especially if you watch any amount of TV, you've got any number of pharmaceutical ads that you have to deal with. And one for psoriasis is very common. The side effects are pretty horrendous because I know people who have taken it. But I wanted to have Tiffani talk to us about what even is psoriasis, Tiffani. I mean, it's a skin condition, but do you want to talk about like how you realized that you actually had a condition and what it is and how it affected you?
Yeah, so something interesting about psoriasis is people think it's just strictly a skin condition. And whenever I was diagnosed and I went to see a dermatologist, that's pretty much what they told me. Basically, my skin was producing at 10 times the rate of, a normal person. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of like the base of what they told me about the disease. And then, fast forward a few years after I've done my own research and really dove deep into the disease, the root of it all, I learned that I don't have a skin disease. I have an autoimmune disease. And the reality of the disease is that a huge portion of Americans actually deal with this disease. And coming forward with my story and my just overall healing journey, it showed me just how many people were also dealing with these same issues that I was. And it comes down to, I think, roughly 25 million people, which totals out to 2 to 3% of our population, which when you put it into that perspective, it's a large amount of people that are all dealing with the same thing. And so it's, going from being diagnosed with this thing to not really having a ton of knowledge on it. My father had it the majority of his life, so I got to see it firsthand in that area. But, he never had a full understanding of it really, or how to heal, or where it was all coming from, or, how to manage it. So it was something that he really struggled with for a huge portion of his life.
Wow. So did you immediately recognize this as something that your father had when it first occurred, or?
No, not at all. So one of the interesting things about psoriasis is it can come on from so many other things. Like people with strep throat can get psoriasis. You can get it from a cut.
Wow.
There's just all these little things that's not the root of it. The cut or the strep throat isn't necessarily that. It's just that your immune system might be weakened or something, and it's just like kind of using that as an opportunity to show itself. So I actually had a cut on my shin. Mm-hmm. It was like 3 months into having this cut, it just wasn't healing, and then it was just kind of getting bigger, and like it was turning into not even a cut anymore. It was just turning into like a patch of my skin that was just inflamed and red, and so this is kind of weird. And then whenever the little spots started popping up, all over my whole body, is whenever I was like, okay, something's wrong. And then honestly, I kind of thought maybe it was psoriasis, but because I had never seen how my father's like originated or gone through his like whole process of first being flared up to what it can turn into, I didn't see like there was no like red flags like, oh, that's exactly what that's supposed to look like, because it starts, there's multiple different types of psoriasis, and they all kind of come up differently. So
wow, so it's really probably not very easy to diagnose. So I guess that's why you went to a dermatologist, because maybe your original doctor didn't even know, huh?
Yeah, and it is kind of, I think, difficult. Some people get misdiagnosed, whether it's like, oh, you just have eczema. I remember people, like strangers would tell me that I had ringworm because it was on my hands and my arms, and it just looks like a red circle. And it's like, I don't have ringworm. I have, I have a disorder, but thank you for your concern. I appreciate it.
So don't get near me.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
kidding.
It's like that, like, oh, contagious kind of thing.
Yeah. So you said your dad really struggled with it. Was it because he did have it affecting his skin mostly and it was just constantly there, or?
Yeah, so he had it. So the psoriasis that I have is actually, I think, maybe the exact same one that he had. I have multiple types, but he had it, covering his elbows, which is where I am affected. Like first, like whenever I have a flare up, it usually hits my elbows first, and then my legs, my back, stomach, chest. So these are all areas my father was affected as well, but he was really affected on his scalp. So I always remember like him going to get haircuts was always a big deal because he was embarrassed. It's always like a female cutting your hair, and like you don't want them to think that you just got like you're not caring for yourself or something. You can't control it. So that memory is pretty prominent for me. But also I remember growing up and taking trips to like the beach and stuff, and that was when my dad saw the most healing because the sun and the salt just completely eat away all that dead skin.
Oh my gosh.
So it really benefits you. So there were just all these little steps throughout my life that I think of my dad and his disease and how he kind of had to deal with it.
Wow. So then like once you went to the dermatologist and then they started, I'm sure they did a couple of tests, or maybe it was mostly visual, but was there like an immediate course of treatment that they recommended, or?
So they were really quick to just be like, oh, we've got the thing for you, like we know exactly what's going to help you. And I was very young. I was living in Houston. I wasn't even like living in the area that I grew up in. I didn't have like counsel of my parents or any family or anything, so I was just going to these doctors' offices pretty much completely blind and on my own without any real knowledge of like who to trust. And so then I had these doctors telling me, these are the routes you need to take. And even the doctor I had, I trusted him so much because he was like, my wife has psoriasis. He's like, this is the drug that she takes. I'm like, oh, well, then, she's taking it, then I can take it. Yeah. So I didn't, really do any extensive research on the side effects or anything like that. And I was on, drugs that essentially can be considered like chemo drugs because they're just so harsh. They completely deplete your immune system. They can have, they can turn into other things later on. And I think one of the biggest things that you have to consider while taking harsh medications for autoimmune diseases is the fact that, besides the fact that they have, harsh effects, but you're essentially burying the disease. You're putting a Band-Aid on it. You're not really getting to the root of the disease. You're not really healing the disease. You're just pushing all this toxins and all this stuff that's coming out of your skin inside, which over time that may hurt you more than the actual medication does.
Yeah. I'm going to switch to my headphones just because I think I'm giving feedback. So if you'll just give me a second.
Yeah, sure.
Let's see if this works. Sure. All right.
Nope, didn't work out.
I guess we're just going to have some feedback today. All right. Sorry. about that, but I can hear the feedback, but I can't. I think my microphone is not charged. So yeah, it happens. So you just went into it thinking, all right, I can trust this doctor, but then he gives you medication that is like severely strong. And yeah, I have a friend who has rheumatoid arthritis, and basically it's the same medication and it's chemo.
Yeah.
But this is, rheumatoid arthritis is also an autoimmune disease, and that's what psoriasis is. And so you jumped in and you tried that medication, is that right?
I did, and at the time of my diagnosis, my body was about 95 or about 90% covered. I was in immense pain every day. I was very, very like hopeless. It was just, one of the lowest points of my life. I just didn't understand like how I was gonna see the light of day because it was just so horrible. And so that's when it was like the turning point. Like I gotta get in to see a doctor. And then once they gave me the medication, it worked. My skin cleared. For the like my issues, like what I thought had gone away. And then it was just like, well, you're going to have to take this medication for the rest of your life, basically. And luckily, I was working for an oil company at the time doing accounting. I had great health insurance.
Yeah.
So it was what would have cost me about $20,000 a month had I not had insurance. That was taking 2 injections every week for the first 2 months, and then after that it staggered out to I think like 2 injections a month. And so yeah, it was just crazy going from being young and healthy to just like what is going on. But yeah, it wasn't until after my father was actually diagnosed with cancer that I started to really look into like my lifestyle and my health and see like what changes could I be making, and especially the fear of these harsh medications and what could potentially come down the road from taking them for so long. So that's when I really made that stance to make a change.
Yeah, who can afford $20,000 a month?
Yeah.
You were lucky to have, because that was the normal course of treatment.
Yeah.
The immediate thing, and it's great that it worked, but wow.
None of my doctors once asked me what my nutrition was like, what I was eating for breakfast, how often I was drinking beer, because that's one of my hugest triggers is yeast. Gluten, obviously not everyone has a gluten intolerance, but a large majority of people with autoimmune diseases or autoimmune issues do. So it's like, had these things been brought to my attention, probably would have laid off the Dos Equis for a little bit, but at the time that was my drink of choice. So I was just like, whatever, like there's no way this beer is the culprit, or the food that I'm eating every day is the culprit. That wasn't even a thought in my mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I remember when Shana told me that this is what you were dealing with, and I was like, she needs to stop eating wheat. Because and yeah, that was always, that's always kind of been my answer for anyone who is having weird issues. Just stop eating wheat. But that's not the only culprit. Like you said, beer is made of wheat, but it's also made of yeast. Yeah. So is bread. Mm-hmm. And what other sort of things did you find trigger you?
So nightshades are not for, obviously we all have such different bodies and we're all built differently, but there are certain triggers that are known to really flare up or hurt autoimmune issues, and specifically psoriasis shades. So like any kind of peppers, tomatoes. I honestly don't see a huge flare up from that type of stuff. I use really I use big spices and big flavors in most of the cooking that I do. Yeah. And that's not really something that I see having like a harsh effect on me, but it's more so sugar, gluten, dairy, pork, red meat, stress. Those are the triggers that I find the most within myself personally.
Wow. So how did you start to determine that? Did you do like an elimination diet, or did you go to a nutritionist, or what did you do?
So the thing that started all of this for me was I found someone else that was trying to heal from psoriasis, and they had it even worse than I did. Like they were like basically like wheelchair bound. It was so bad they could barely walk.
Oh my gosh.
So once I saw her before and after and saw that she like basically completely healed herself, I was like, wow, like if she can do it, I can do it, you know? And that was like the biggest thought that I had was like, other people are doing it, it's got to be attainable. And so I just started doing tons of research of like, how do I handle this on my own? And the first, well, not the first, but the one thing that I found that really kickstarted my healing was, her name is Hannah. I don't want to pronounce her last name. I think it's Hillistow. She's in the UK, and she has a book called Radiant, and her name on Instagram is My Goodness Recipes.
My Goodness Recipes?
Yes, and she's actually, she's got her own brand. She was on the UK version of Shark Tank and got a deal for all of her products that she's pushing out to help with people battling psoriasis. But her book, Radiant, it truly lays out psoriasis, the cause of it, how to heal, what you need to be doing, what you don't need to be doing. It really breaks everything down in such an easy way that anyone can understand. It's very user friendly. It's just like this book is just a true guide, and that's what I followed like to the T for the first, I would say, 2 months out of the first 7 months that it took me to completely heal.
Wow.
And it's the number one thing I recommend to every single person that comes into my DMs or sends me a message or just like begs me, like, how do you help? And I'm like, just read this book, because if you don't start with knowledge and understanding what you're trying to heal, you're not going to get very far.
Yeah. Wow. So 7 months is a lot different than taking an injection and noticing clearer skin right away. So it took a lot of patience and a lot of work and, time to get that going, didn't it? I may have lost you. Can't hear you right now. Oh, there you are. Back. Yay.
So it's storming so bad. I feel like my connection is just like in and out right now.
Oh my gosh. Wow. It's not storming here.
It's raining off and on all day.
Yeah, really? Oh, that's cool. Well, what I was saying is, 7 months is obviously a lot different than just an injection, and there you're on your road to healing.
Yeah.
So you must have had a lot of patience and just a lot of determination, I would think.
Yeah.
How was that?
I just had like, my mindset was just, if I'm going to do it, I got to give it 100% and just see if it works, because, giving it 50% and then it not turning out the way I wanted to, then I've just wasted my own time. And just like, what's the point if you're not going to give it your all? And so that was the mentality that I really had to keep the whole time, because like living in Dallas, Justin and I are in a drinking club. So we taste like good liquors often, and our friends are, in that group, and we drink tequila, and we social drink and stuff. And so every weekend when all our friends are drinking and I'm on this detox where I didn't drink for, I think, like 3 or 4 months. And so it was like, yeah, that was definitely hard.
Yeah.
But, over time, just seeing myself slowly starting to heal, because it is so slow, or well, for me it was at least, and especially because a lot of times it gets worse before it gets better. So it's like doing everything right, and it's all of a sudden you're flared up again, and you're like, well, what's the point if it's just going to be like this? And so you have to like battle your own mindset of like, is this working? Do I keep going throughout like the whole journey? It's literally go away.
Well, and then you also, I'm sure you thought about this, but 7 months and even a few flare-ups in between is a lot better than injections for the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
So one thing I know about you, and because I do follow you on Instagram, which I recommend for everybody who's watching, if you don't follow Tiffani, on Instagram, we'll put a link in the comments, or I don't know if you can make comments, Tiffani, but if you can, but anyhow, I'll do it afterwards, because on Instagram, you are posting things every single day, and you posted a lot of your path, your ups and downs, and you've also shown, you haven't hesitated to show your body when you had your outbreaks and when you got better. But one of the biggest things that you show is all of the beautiful food that you're creating these days. So can you talk about how, like, changing your diet back then, like a year or two ago, whenever you started doing this, how has that changed not only your lifestyle, but sort of your career path and, like, in general, how you approach your life?
Yeah. So one of the first things I tell people who are really serious about healing or considering going on like a healing journey is, you have to. Oh, I'm sorry, I just completely lost my train of thought. I'm over here getting distracted by my dog. He's upstairs.
I'm glad he's being good.
Oh yeah, always good. Just a little bit crazy. We had to lock him up, otherwise he'd be jumping on me right now trying to go outside. But sorry, one of the biggest things that I tell people is, if you're really considering this, you have to make it. It's not just like a diet. It's not like a quick fix. It's not anything temporary. It is a long-lasting lifestyle change and choice that you have to make, because it's something that you really have to implement into your day-to-day. You can't just do it for a couple weeks or a couple months and then be like, okay, we're done and back to normal. It's like, you've got to, figure out what is, what your triggers are and what's hurting you, and then just kind of follow that path if you want to continue healing. Because it's not, you don't just heal and come out on the other side. It's just an ongoing process of constantly and continuous healing to maintain, a healthy immune system. And so that being said, it has completely changed my lifestyle in a sense to where I definitely went down the rabbit hole for nutrition, and Justin often comments like, where does it end? Like, I'm like, you got to throw this out, and you're like, get the aluminum out of here, just everything. But it's definitely made me more conscious about my nutrition, about what I'm putting in my mind, about what I'm putting, in my environment. There's just so many things that go into it. Toxins aren't only in what we're ingesting. They're in the words that people say. They're in, the energy. They're in the products that we use in our household. So whenever you open up that picture and really dive into what could be affecting you, it's just like you're just opening up all the doors, basically. So you've got to really buckle in and be ready for what you're gonna dive into. But it has been hands down the best decision I've ever made, for sure.
Yeah. So are you turning this into sort of a new career path at all, or?
I don't know about a career path. I just, I mean, as you know, I'm with JP and Associates Realtors, but I am, consider myself to be an entrepreneur, and I've kind of always have a bunch of different wheels turning at once, just constantly throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. So this is definitely something that I would consider to be a passion of mine. I've always been really big about, I enjoy helping people, and I enjoy talking to people. And I feel like this has been a really big outlet for me to do both of those things. But in the same token, I don't know if that's just like just something that I would like to keep on the side, or if that's like a full force thing. I am, obviously, about my cooking and stuff. And so I do release cookbooks on the side. And in the next month, I'll be releasing a couple apps that are targeting fitness and overall wellness. And then those will also have, cookbooks and meal plans attached to it. So I've got some stuff in the works. It's more of like it's like a lifestyle package, because it shows you how to, be grateful for what you have every day while focusing on nutrition, focusing on, weekly and, daily exercise. And these are all things that go into healing But I think this is going to be really beneficial for the situation that we're in right now with COVID and the bad habits that people are, unfortunately, myself included, taking on, sleeping in later, or eating too much junk food because we're just home all the time eating,
Right. Yeah.
or just drinking more, just things that we're all taking part in, but that we want it to be temporary. We don't want this to be long-lasting habits that we're creating. So that's kind of the focus for this new business that's coming up soon.
Well, for sure, once you get that launch, I'd like you to come back so that we will not have technical difficulties.
I know, right? We've had all of them today.
And I charged my headset because the battery was dead, and then it just told me battery low. I'm like, oh, but we'll get it figured out for next time for sure. But I'm excited. I wasn't sure if you were doing a book or the app sounds even better. I mean, because that's something that anybody can use, to really keep yourself accountable. And yeah, I'm so relieved that you found a path. I don't know if you saw my interview a few weeks ago with Robin, who owns Sanctuary Holistic Kitchen here in Georgetown. She actually is a nutritionist, and she, at a very young age, started having weird food sensitivities. It wasn't psoriasis, but she has a thing you can do. I think it's like a blood test or something, and it'll give you feedback on the things that really affect you. Have you done that before?
No, I've actually been looking into it a lot, though. The ones I'm looking at are usually over like $500, so it's definitely an investment. I'm not sure if hers is on a lower scale or not, but yeah, I've definitely. It's good to know what is affecting you negatively, and it's like if we're eating a ton of something that our body just can't fully digest, or that our body isn't supposed to have, why would we keep punishing ourselves like that?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I'm definitely open to it and would like to. It's just figuring out which one. There's so many out there now, so just figuring out which one is the right one to go with.
Yeah. I'll give you information.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
I'll have to check out that podcast and just see what you have to say, because that's right up my alley.
Yeah, mine too. I was like, told her right off the bat, I said I was jealous of her because she did something I've always wanted to do, which is like open a store of health food. But yeah, I mean, you think things like tomatoes, everybody, tomatoes are everywhere. Whether you like them or not, they're in things like pizza and whatever.
Yeah.
And most people don't even know what it means to hear nightshade vegetables. Yeah. But, you think these things are healthy for you because generally they are, for human consumption, but not everyone's body is the same.
We're not all the same. I also am really interested in the blood diet. It's, eating off of your blood type. So I've been looking into that too. There's just so many, because we're all different. We're not supposed to be all taking in the same stuff.
Yeah. You know what your blood type is?
And that's an issue. I don't. And I called all of my doctors, and because I got a bunch of blood work done in the last 2 years, and they were like, sorry, that's a specific blood test that you have to get to figure out what your type is. And so I was like, maybe I'll just go donate blood, because they'll tell you.
Yeah. That will tell you for sure. Well, mine's O positive, and I read that book many years ago. And at that time I was vegetarian. And when I read all the detail, I think it was O positive. Yeah. It said you're supposed to focus on meat, and like protein and animal products. And I was like, what? No, forget it. But I will say I tried the keto diet, which is obviously protein heavy and carb light. And I lost weight immediately. Not that I needed to lose any, but it just went away like that. So I thought that was interesting.
With the diet, as you know, I was doing vegan and plant-based for a while, and I was feeling that's what led me to go get so many tests done, because I was feeling horrible. I was having so many issues and pains. I was like, something has got to be wrong. And they couldn't come up with anything. I wasn't deficient in anything. And then I'm like, well, maybe, and now that I've started incorporating protein back into my diet, like ground turkey and just organic meats, I'm feeling better. So I'm like, maybe I'm not supposed to be on that
side
of the scale.
Yeah, totally. Well, I think people, I'm glad that you're doing this, that you're promoting your changes in your lifestyle, because I think so many people, and it's really sad that they just live with chronic, what they think is illness. And it may be psoriasis, or it may be, Crohn's disease, or really any number of what they're calling autoimmune diseases these days. Like chronic fatigue syndrome, which,
you're just all the time. Hey, that's the thing, but what could you do on a natural, organic aspect that could potentially help that? I'm not saying every disease should be cured with nutrition, because there's some diseases where you need medication, but if people took the time to really look into whether or not what they're dealing with could be controlled with something more natural, they'd be surprised.
Yeah. Even if it means you don't get to go to McDonald's or splurge on whatever, sometimes you gotta give things up to have a good life, but a quality of life. Anyhow, well, keep me posted on when your app comes out, and I'll definitely have you back out to talk about that and how people can connect with that. And in the comments, I will go ahead and put a link to your Instagram, so that other people can follow and just kind of see visually what you've been doing. And the cool thing is, on your stories, you're always cooking something. And I'm always like, dang it, I wish I would cook like that.
Especially now I had 30 recipes that I've been trying to push out, and so I have one left, and it's a dessert, so I'm probably going to cook that one today, and then now I'm off to editing the photos. But yeah, trying to cook as much as I can right now.
Very good. Thank you so much, Tiffani.
Yeah, thank you, Sam.
Can't wait to talk to you again and see you.
I'll see you in person very soon.
All right. Take care. All right. Bye.